Ready to debunk some myths about an MBA?
No, it's not true.
Well, you might be somebody who's seriously considering pursuing an MBA program. And in this video, I'm going to debunk 3 of the biggest myths I hear all the time that prevent people from pursuing an MBA and advancing their careers. Because that's ultimately what an MBA is about. It's about career advancement. It's about becoming a better professional, more educated individual, which then translates to the workplace. So welcome to the latter end. My name is Dan. And I just recently procured an MBA from Louisiana State University. I did an online program at their Shreveport campus, and it's helped me tremendously. And I very meticulously picked these 3 myths because, quite frankly, there are many myths. And I could probably make a video series just debunking myths and giving my thoughts on it as somebody who procured an MBA from a gold standard accredited program. The LSU online program is a AACSB accredited program, which is the gold standard that you want to ensure you obtain if you do choose to pursue an MBA. And I'll get more into that shortly. And that comes more towards the end of the video. So again, be sure to watch this video through. I believe that it will add a lot of value in your decision to either pursue an MBA or not. So myth number 1 is the financial element to an MBA. There are so many people who think that an MBA financially is just way out of arm's reach, that it's just too expensive and it's not worth the price tag. And whether it's worth it or not sort of ventures into a different discussion, but I just want to focus on the fact that it's quote unquote way too expensive, because that's not necessarily true. There are many programs, online programs, from institutions that have been around for years that employers will recognize immediately, that have the gold standard accreditation, the AACSB, that all the best MBA programs have. And I'll get more into that as this video progresses, because that point pertains to another myth that I'll talk about shortly. But for example, my program at LSU Shreveport was only about $15,000. And $15,000 is obviously nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of money. You're not gonna, get around paying a large dollar amount for an MBA. It's going to be expensive. But the point is, some of these programs are 6 figures, $200,000, $100,000, $85,000. I've seen it. Now there's a lot of online programs, these online accelerated programs, that are tremendously more affordable, and they give you that opportunity to seriously consider it, because now it's not way out of arm's reach from a financial standpoint. Maybe going 15 grand in debt, or maybe paying it up front, of course, depending on your financial situation, might be worth the payoff. Because again, we know having an MBA has a great payoff. Look at corporate, look at all the senior executives, the senior directors, the vice presidents, the C-suite personnel. Many of them have master's degrees, and many of them more specifically have MBAs. And more on that to come shortly. But the point here is that the financial aspect that I'm debunking, the myth that I'm debunking, is that it's just way too expensive. I can never do it. I would never be willing to pay for it. Well, keep in mind that there's many programs that are less than $20,000. Some are less than $15,000. And I've attached a screenshot here that you can look at. And these are institutions that are accredited, that have the gold standard accreditation. Again, the AACSB, I highly advise you look for. They're from big cities, big states. They're schools that employers will recognize. And those are 2 key points: that you get the gold standard accreditation through an MBA program, and that you pick a school that employers will recognize, and more to come on that. But this is my point about the financial aspect, that it needs to come out of your head that it's just way too overwhelmingly expensive and I can never afford it. Subsequently, myth number 2 is people thinking that they need to get an MBA from a top 10, top 20 school, or it's not worth it. It's either I go to Harvard, I go to MIT, I go to Cal Berkeley, which is right in my backyard. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. Great business school. I go to the University of Chicago, the Business School of Booth. These top programs that are the best in the country. Stanford, so on and so forth. These can be looked up. But the idea that it has to be a top program or it's not worth your time is absolutely and utterly false. Now, are there benefits uniquely that might come with going to a top program? Sure, there are. There's probably some amazing networking opportunities. And, there's probably a plethora of other benefits that are uniquely tied to going to a top school. But that's not to say that if you don't go to one of those schools, it's just not worth it. Quite frankly, I find that to be an excuse. And I'll tell you why. I've worked for many different companies, and I'll get it more into the companies I've worked for, how I've been able to land them, how I've been able to do well in job interviews. I'm going to have video series on all that information. But the point I'm making here is I've worked for different companies in which senior executives, senior directors, vice presidents, C-suite personnel had MBAs. And almost none of them had them from top schools. They had them from good schools. They had them from schools that had the gold standard accreditation that I've spoken about and that I will speak about more shortly. And they went to schools that people would recognize. These institutions that have been around for a while that people can recognize right off the bat. So I think those are the keys. Those are the two keys that I would say. The key number one is, as it pertains to this myth, which is that it has to be a top school or bust, which is myth number two. And the two keys are, just pick a school that has the gold standard accreditation. Pick a school that people could recognize, that people are familiar with. And it's absolutely worth it. Again, I've seen people rise with an MBA that was not from a top school. I've seen CEOs that have an MBA that isn't from a top school on paper. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest. I really think that it's an excuse to a degree. I think that it makes somebody feel better about not putting in the effort to pursue an MBA and to obtain one. That, I'm not going to get accepted to a top school. I couldn't go to Harvard anyways. I couldn't go to Stanford anyways. I couldn't get into Berkeley anyways. So I'm not going to do it. It's a waste of time. That's not true. That's not true. Now, I've benefited greatly from having an MBA. I just got a new job and got a pay rise, about 25%. Pretty substantial right away. And I'll make more videos on that shortly. I don't want to digress here. But again, myth number two is it has to be a top school or bust, or I'm not going to go. It's a myth. Don't fall for it. Now let's get into the last myth. Myth number three. And this is a big one. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one, because this is one I might hear the most. I might hear this one the most. I don't have the time. That's myth number three. I don't have the time. And it's not to sound callous. It's not to sound like I can't understand or empathize with the fact that you have a busy schedule. I can absolutely and utterly empathize with that. I can understand that. But as I said, I just recently got an MBA, and virtually all of my classmates and everybody I came in contact with was working a full-time job. Many of them had families, kids to raise, wives and husbands, personal obligations. They were very busy. So the fact that you say you don't have the time, well, this comes back to the online program. These online programs are asynchronous, meaning that it's fully online. You don't have to show up to any lecture. The teachers post their lectures. They post their notes. They post their PowerPoint slide decks. They post all the requisite information that you need to study, all the homework assignments. Everything is detailed on an online portal. In most cases, the work will come out on Monday, the first day of the week, and you'll have till Sunday of that same week to get everything in, to turn everything in. Now, sometimes a professor will have an assignment that's due sooner. So the work will come out Monday, and maybe that paper or that discussion forum or maybe even that exam ends on Thursday.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
But in most cases, you have those full 7 days, and you do it on your own time. Nobody's telling you to show up to class. Nobody's penalizing you for not showing up to a lecture. There's no such thing in this case. Now, some teachers do have live Zoom sessions in which they go over information, but it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory to show up. You don't have to show up. And oftentimes, almost all the time, it's pre-recorded and they'll post it on the portal. So then you can watch it when it's convenient for you and when you have the time to do so. So the fact that you say you don't have the time, you might have a lack of understanding as to what's offered nowadays with these online programs. I had a full-time job the entire time, and I did it at the fastest possible pace. 10 months, and I was out. Had an MBA from LSU. Realizing game. And again, this is something you want to have. Because if you're somebody who works in a corporate office, who works for a corporate company, has a 9 to 5, just look at the people at the top. In many cases, they have master's degrees. They have MBAs. So it's really important to have it. Even if maybe right now you don't see the value of it, which there will be value in it right now, but this is a hypothetical. At some point, you'll likely be in a position in which it will really benefit you to have it. And the fact that you think you don't have the time, now I'm very empathetic and very understanding and very compassionate that, I understand that it is a time commitment and you're going to have to think about if you can make it happen, from a time standpoint. But again, myth number 3 is that I just don't have the time. And the primary reason why I view that as a myth is because of these online programs that give you the flexibility, that give you ample time to get work done at whenever is best for you, at whatever juncture is best for you. You don't have to show up to the classroom. You don't have to show up to any lectures. You don't have to raise your hand and get picked. You just need to study and get the work done at whichever time is best for you. So again, this is a brief video and I want to keep it succinct, but those are the 3 big myths. Of course, I have many more myths, but I want to keep this succinct. And these are certainly 3 that really come to mind when I think of reasons as to why people are preventing themselves from doing an MBA. These are certainly 3 very strong reasons that come to mind. And thank you so much for watching The Latter End. This is now the 3rd video I've done on an MBA, so I highly suggest you watch the other 2. I posted one in the link below that is about if the MBA is worth it. So then you can watch it and decide for you if the MBA is worth it. And I make an argument that it is, and I expand upon that and give reasons as to why I believe it is. And I highly suggest you watch it, as I believe it will aid you in making a decision, making an informed decision. But again, thank you so much for watching. If you found value in this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And again, I'm Dan with The Latter End. And until next time, thank you.